Hey everybody, we are with Michael. How do you say your last name again?
It's tough. Melicinos.
Melicinos.
Hold on. It depends where you are in the world. If here in the States, Melicinos is what we would say. If you're in Greece, they say Melicinos or Melicinos, depending on how, how they uh, accent the name, but one of
Nice.
those three is fine. You
Nice.
know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Michael, we talked trend following for many, many years. He's been a trend following trader. He has a fund. He also works with Jerry Parker pretty closely. You guys have been very interesting in trend following stuff lately. So I figured I'd bring Michael on. It's been a little bit since he's been on the show. So how are you doing today, Michael?
Oh, good. Life is a new it's not even a new dad. My son's 17 months old now, and so it's just tough though. Even when you have help, you're still tired,
Hmm.
man. You still got like stuff to do all the time. And then you're like trying to fit in everything else into it too. And
Is it your first kid?
yeah, first.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It'll
I
slow
I
down.
think I think it's gonna be only. Um, but yeah, it'll slow. Yeah, he's fun now, but like that first year is tough, man.
Oh,
It's
it's
just
very tough, man. It's probably the hardest thing in life, actually, really. Like you're tired all the time. It's a lot of infighting, like it's a lot of mess. Like it would just be like so much stress of being like, wait, am I actually mad or am I just tired? Like like
yeah,
that's how you
yeah,
feel sometimes. So
yeah.
totally get it.
We're finding our new system, like how we divvy up things and always time, we're just it's all logistic, a lot of logistical talks. Before it was like, where are we going for dinner, where are we going
Yep.
for brunch on the weekend, where's our next trip? And now it's
Hmm.
like he's got class, he's got his play, he's got this, like
Hmm.
did you pick up the package? It's like, you know it's all this very like
You got to back
remember.
test it.
It's, you get blindsided with work, and you're like, and then you're
Yeah.
tired all the time. So, but yeah, it's fun. He's getting fun now. He's becoming more of like a human now.
Yeah.
Obviously the
It
walking and talking, and he can, he interacts a lot. It's not like, yeah, that first year is just like Magoo, you just
nice.
got to do everything.
I
But
love it.
yeah,
It's scary, now to the point where the kids for me are grown up and they're out doing their own thing, and it's just so cool to kind of see the change and the difference. But those times were the rough times. But it only
how
gets
old are your
better.
kids? How old are your kids?
13 and 18.
13 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
Man, wait,
13
how
and
old are
8.
you?
I am 38.
Whoa,
Mm-hmm.
wow, you went early, man.
13 and 18. Yeah.
Wow, you went early. Yeah,
Yeah. Different person
I
back
was
then.
37 when we had Preston. So,
Yeah.
we took our sweet ass time, traveling and enjoying our silence
Nice.
before we went
Yeah.
down that path. But wow,
I get
yeah,
it. I mean, it's not like we're kind of back to that point now, like I'm kind of back to that point now, which is nice. But at the same time, it's like teenage years is always a new thing. There's always something new, like I pretty
yeah,
much think the glory time is the 7 to 12 probably. And then after that, you're like back into the teenage angsty teen years. And I was a fucking miserable teenager, so I would assume
mm,
they'd be one that makes sense.
right, yeah. It's just like new skills for like it's just something new all the time. You always got to be ready, and once you get used to the old phase, and the new one starts, and
Hmm.
we'll get used to his toddler, and then school will start, and there'll be new dynamics and these
Yep.
crazy teachers, and like politics and other parents that are
Yeah.
wacky, and who knows, he gets pushed down at school, and you're like, how am I supposed to deal with this?
Mhm.
Like
But they only get better over time. It's like trend following.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You get a lot of I guess yeah, maybe smoother as they go. I don't know. The first, it's like when you first take the trade, it's very, is this gonna work? Let's see, let's see. And then yeah, you just got to get them off and running, and then you can like, all right, winds at our back a
Yeah.
little bit. You know, So it was
Nice.
like that with sleeping at night.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man, like just go to fucking sleep. Like I know you're gonna get there. Let's just go. But now it's easy. Now he's sleeps like a rock. But
That's
yeah, all
nice.
these things. But
So before we hopped on, I was like, we gotta start recording because we started talking about the difference between trend following, actually trading. Just think about it actually trading compared to talking about it.
yeah.
I always say like it's easy to say like, hey, like, at the beginning of this year, I got a signal to get long the NASDAQ at
Mm,
some point. And it's
mm,
also, but it's, there's trades in the middle of that. But it's easy to just say the NASDAQ will be up at the end of this year. But how do you trade that? How do you risk manage that? Do you get in and out of the trade? Like that's the important things. The thing isn't just being in the trade and being like it'll go up forever. So as a trader, we have to think two different ways. So you were talking earlier about just in general of people who have to write these wild things just to kind of sell trading and then you guys kind of are just like we're trend followers, this is what we're doing, this is how we do it.
yeah. Uh it's like similar to sports. It's easier to be on ESPN talking about the game than actually going in the game, and it's two completely different skills, and two it's hard it's hard to I'd say be in the game and then also talk about the game. I think like
Mhm.
when I watch sports and I watch athletes, um, they're probably the most emotional after the game when their place of calm. And I remember from my days is where you're not thinking, you are like at peace, and it's on the field. And
Mhm.
um but then going off and then talking about the game later, at least for an athlete's perspective, like right after the game, right after a loss or whatever, you're like most emotional, you're like not making
Mhm.
sense, or you know you're 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 not good with words because you spend most of the time not talking. You're playing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're not talking out on the ice, or on, yeah, if it's like hockey or on the ice or on the field, whatever. But I think when you get into well, one, I think people like take trend following almost for granted, like, oh, it's easy, you just go with the trend, you just buy high, and like when it makes a new high, you get in, like,
Yep.
okay, because what happens around those times that the system tells you to get in,
Mhm.
there are lots of stories
Yep.
and opinions and your own emotions and your own opinions and feelings floating around, and
Mhm.
you're like, I'm gonna get long the fucking Nasdaq now. Like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hold on. And
Yep.
then you don't do it, or you switch something around. You go a little later than you should,
Mhm.
and then these things happen all the time, and they're just not talked about. They're not out front and center because no one really knows what you're doing. Your investors trust you. Um, if you're writing a newsletter or something, posting like, signals or something to do, like,
Mhm.
no one really knows what the rules are. These kind of signals just pop out, and
Mhm.
they don't know if you change something or whatever. But I think as we've gotten more and more trend followers into the mix, let's say trend following funds and competitors, if you will, into the mix, they're not really true trend followers. They just see it as an angle to sell something, to sell
Yes.
a fund, to raise some money,
Mhm.
and it might be fashionable lately,
Mhm.
because it's done, by and large done well, no matter if you're more
It's been the
commodities heavy or
outperformer for a
equities.
few years, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, yeah. I guess since like 2020,
Mhm.
things have gotten a little wacky, and especially because people, I think, were looking at other things to invest in, as the Silicon Valley kind of startup culture kind of took a dip, and then the crypto kind of cooled off, and yeah, those SPACs, and like these like just speculative bubbles that were going on kind of went away or took a
Yeah.
huge hit. So things are, people naturally, they looking for what's working lately. Of course,
Mhm.
that's what they do. And stocks, the index funds and bonds, they were getting hammered too, at least last year.
Yeah.
And so I think as more and more of, at least lately, trend following has become popular, cool again. Um, you're getting, you see some people in the field that are, yeah, they're not really trend followers. They're trend followers for now.
Hmm.
They're just salespeople. They come and go. We're just getting the latest round of people here, and trend following is not it can't be fashionable for you. Like, it has to be. And I think I made the comment before we started hitting record. Like, it's punk rock, man. Like,
Hmm.
you don't casually listen to it for a while.
Yeah.
It has to hit you or it does not.
Hmm.
Um, and I think you have your genre that that is your favorite and that you listen to all the time, or you don't. It is not a, yeah, pick it up when it's good. Pick it up when it's, whatever. Like, no. Um, and I think that's what happens when you get a lot of people just, they're not investors technically, but they're exhibiting the same behavior as an investor would. They're just chasing it. Some
Yeah.
people chase it to invest, other people chase it to start a business around, and then they'll, try to, raise some money and, uh, go that angle, go on the other side of the table, if you will. But um, I think you see over time, like, who really loves it, who's in it. We mentioned, Jerry, working with Jerry for a
Yeah.
while. We're good friends, and we work together, invest in each other's funds, and we're trend traders no matter what. Like,
Hmm.
I
For
started in
life,
a really
lifers.
crappy time. Sorry,
I said you guys are lifers.
lifers, yeah,
Mhm.
There's a bunch of other firms that have been around a long, long time, and you could see, like, which ones change some things, which ones,
Mhm.
like, they start talking too much, and
Mhm.
they let their hand show. And they're like, oh, they're not real. I mean,
Mhm.
sure, okay, they're trend following. They're a trend following fund, but, like, they'll take it out if they see a business angle
Mhm.
that that would improve their business by taking it out or switching it around or massaging it or whatever.
Because of
And
sales. Yeah, they think of
it's
sales and
it
and
sells
you
it. They
I think the thing that's awesome about you and you're like me in the sense like I don't think about it as in like I ever want to raise money. I never think about raising money. I always think about doing well, winning, doing good trades. Like that's I think the what separates a lot of people is that these people here, they're salespeople. They want to make a big business. They want to bring as much money as they can as possible. But then there's the other people who are like, I just want to fucking win. Like, and I get that probably from sports as well. Like I was an athlete
Yeah,
as well. Like you just kind of your goal is to do well and win, not to make everybody like you, not to raise money. Like you don't give a shit about any of that stuff. It's like you said, it's
yeah.
punk rock. Like
Whether we're playing in a yeah, whether I'm playing in front of 5 people or 5,000, 50,000 people, doesn't matter.
mm,
I'm not here for that. Like, sure, um, I want to win so you can all, like, have a great time, but uh, it's a personal drive, a personal pride that I have to have. Like, if we're playing stickball, like, no one's there. It's like, Mike, this game doesn't mean anything. It's like, you don't fucking get it. Like,
yeah,
I can't explain it to you, but you don't understand. You
yeah.
know, this isn't important. Yes, it is.
Yeah. I
you
have a
know,
problem. I have a park right
yeah,
down the street. I play basketball with them. And then, like, if I get beat by like a kid in high school, I get so bent out of shape, like I'm 40. Like, I know, like, I'm not as
yeah,
fast as these kids. There's a kid going to D1 right now and he fucking fried me the other day. And I got so upset about it, and it's like, of course he did. Like, I'm getting old. Like, you don't play like you used to, but I can't get my head around that, like it's still in me to be like, I want to win, I want to do well, but that transfers. I think that's what's cool about trading is like that same athletic thing that you had then can transfer now into trading. And it makes you really good at it.
yeah. I think on a deeper, what you said before, you said, I don't care about raising money.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another tell for me. like, or maybe I think it's a tell, but I don't I don't think of I don't think of like I'm in a business. I need, I'm in the fund management business. I need to raise money to improve my personal situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think when you start thinking of like they're just people. They're people like you that want to do well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not thinking of like, oh, I got to raise some money from Jason, or I got to
Mm-hmm.
raise some money, and get their money. I got to get that
Mm-hmm.
account. Like, I'm not looking to get or like raise. I'm looking to do well. I'm looking to work well with people that I like, who have a
Yes.
similar common mind, common approach, common philosophy towards things, risk
Mm-hmm.
tolerance, all that. And hey, if we hit it off and work well together, that's wonderful. Like, we're
Mm-hmm.
all gonna win, and we're gonna win with like at a calm state and low
Mm-hmm.
stress. And sure, we're gonna like lose money at times. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's life. That's the markets.
Yeah.
But like this thing of, yeah, we gotta get assets. We gotta get to 100 million. Like,
Mm-hmm.
get to 100 million. That's like I gotta sleep with 100 chicks. Like, this
Yeah.
is not like
It's
this is
true.
like kind of gross. It's
Yeah.
just, it doesn't mean, it's not meaningful to me. Like, it's
No.
not, okay, great. You got to 100 million. Like, I, like what? Like, what did you want it for?
Yeah.
To buy the thing, to show off the money. Like, I don't know. And maybe this is like my naive, I don't get it. Like, there's definitely like, no, you got to be a shark in this business. You got to like, a man will, doesn't think of it like that. Like, they go and get it. Like, look, I I I understand what you're saying. I'm just like, this doesn't when you start to think of the people who give you their hard-earned money and
Mm-hmm.
trust you with their hard-earned money, I don't think of them as like assets or something. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think of them as like the money, or as like a path to my my goal or whatever. It's just like, no, no. I'm just like, we're working together. We're trying to win together. Like,
Yeah. Partners,
that
you know.
that's it. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're on a texting basis where I can call him anytime. You can call me
Mm-hmm.
anytime.
Mm-hmm.
This is not some business only cold transactional thing. And I understand some people like are better, maybe better suited for that.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I'm not like again, maybe I'm destined to like be a punk rock kid forever. And which I like. I listen to punk rock. That's not like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just using it as a thing. So
Me too.
maybe
No.
I'm just destined to not have this massive business. I'm destined to like run this little restaurant that just tries to kick ass and like has a really tight group of local people. And then like, oh, in 30 years we're kicking ass. And like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
everyone's wealthy. Like,
Yeah.
because we just kept our head down and like just focused on making the food good.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think
rather than like,
that's
we got to
so perfect.
expand. Yeah, we got to expand. We got to get more this. We got to like, always like the money is the drive. Like, that's no. Um,
No, that's
and
perfect.
yeah, but I think a lot of people are in that it is their motivation. I'm not saying you can't do well if that is your motivation,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like, I prefer the other way. I just
It's just
prefer
not
like,
me, you know. It's like you
yeah,
said,
yeah,
like it's just not you, it's just not me. Like I think about trading as the thing that like I aspire to do well. Like I work really hard to do well at it. I want to figure it out, especially like as a trend follower, like those things are really important to me. I don't think that during the, the dead I also know that when people are sitting there panicking and going like, oh shit, like this isn't working right now, I'm not one to just jump ship and go, oh, I better find what's working. I know my style, I know my methodology, I know my brain. I know my brain doesn't like the other styles, doesn't work as well. Like for
yeah,
trend following, it fits me. It fits my style. It makes me not stare at a screen all fucking day. I can't do that.
yeah,
I can't just pick stocks and walk away for 20 years. It's not anything I can even wrap my head around why that would work.
yeah.
But trend following, it all makes sense to me. I can back test it. I'm analytical in itself, and
Hmm.
that works well for me. And like, yeah, like you said, there's the people who go, I want to make all this money. I want to make all the money in the world. Um,
Yeah.
not needed for everybody, you know.
Yeah. I also think like there's a calm and there's stability in knowing what your method is, what your sound is. Just to stick with the music analogy. Like you got, jumping all around to go with fashionable in the day. It's like, they're kind of like losing their lane is this. And not to say you have to like repeat the same album over and over again where it's just a copy,
Wait,
version.
I
But
got a good one for you.
yeah,
AFI.
AFI. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
AFI. Their
Yeah.
beginnings were, extremely punk rock. They were pretty amazing. And you found that it was the first CD called Very Fond of You or something. I can't remember. But the
I'll look
first
it up.
CD they had was awesome. I remember owning it and being like, this is great. And then like the next CD they put out was like emo or something, it was kind of like emo, screamo-ish. And then like they just moved completely to this pop like thing. Then you were like, this band sucks now. Like what happened? And so like that's
Yeah.
what I see a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like there's some
Very proud
people
of
that
you.
can
That's what it was.
really do it well. Who can really adapt, but like still make good music too. Where it's like, oh, all right, I see what they're doing, but like some are like, all right, you're just leaning into the sound of the day, and like you tried to force this in, and it just didn't hit. Like you kind of went a little quick, got a little lazy, and just copied. This isn't really you guys. I think uh, they just put out a new album. Blink 182 just put out a new album after a
Mm-hmm.
long, that long breakup. But you could tell like it sounds different.
Mm-hmm.
Because like at least the Tom DeLonge's voice is getting it's getting a little deeper now.
Yeah.
He's not as like whiny as he used to be because he's singing for 30 years or whatever. But still like they're just like run and gun, fast and a little catchy, but they still do it like well, but it doesn't sound like you don't turn it on and think like, oh, this could have been on, you know, this could have been on the album, 30 years, 20 years ago or whatever. So like they're adapting, but they're still like maintaining their bread and butter, their broad strokes, if you will. But yeah, I mean, I think trend following is it's specific taste and a specific way, and you can't be a trend follower then become like a fundamental guy. Like
Mm-hmm.
how the hell you reconcile that?
Yeah.
You know,
But you
and
can go the other way because you see a lot of them go the other way.
well, yeah, because it works better because
Yeah.
the fundamental guys get fucking burned. Because they stick with their story,
Yeah.
they stick with a good company, and then it turns out that good company wasn't a good company, but the 70% downtrend happened, and then you're like, oh yeah, now it's not a good company. Oh, now yeah. Well, that's part of the risk of equating the company with the stock. A company is not the stock, even if it's a good one. I think like Tesla is probably a good example. Like there's so many
Mm-hmm.
good examples, but Tesla, hasn't gone anywhere in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But over that span, um the revenues have jumped like 10x. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, because the market priced it in. Like
Yeah.
back then, that was the move. You got
Yes.
the revenue expansion move then, not now, not when it actually happens. So like again, like you guys got to grow up. This is
Yeah.
what happens. So I
It's
think
the
like,
truth. That what you just said there is so spot on. That's the truth where you as a trend follower, I know like my price signals will tell me what's going to happen. Like it's not telling me like you said earlier about the Nasdaq. Like when you get the signal for the trade, you're like, really? The Nasdaq
yeah,
in this
yeah,
environment? Like
yeah,
you still take the trade, like you take it, like you put it on, all right, whatever. And then like, you got news coming out, friends going, why the world are you long the Nasdaq? Like just on and on, but like it just kept going up. So who gives a
yeah.
shit? Like it doesn't matter to me.
That's what's really tough, to like really go it alone and shut it off, and be able to hear the noise, because likely you're going to
Mm,
hear things. Like,
mm,
you're in the business, and
mm,
you're going to, read things and talk to people, and they're going to be mentioning stuff, and your thoughts are going to go. So it's,
mm,
I played baseball, so you had a lot of time to sit around and think, and
mm.
you like talk yourself into a slump. Like, you talk
Yep.
yourself into a shitty habit, just
Mm,
because you had some time to like kind of overthink why maybe you haven't, hit the ball as well, like in the
mm.
last few games. And then
Yep.
those few games turn into 10 games, just because you're like in your head and you make it worse. But like, that that is again like another foundational like advantage, that having a specific set of rules, like no matter how you're feeling, like, well, I know, what I got to do is like do this rules, like that is my saving. If I'm in a if I'm in traffic, if my God forbid someone close to me dies and I'm a emotional wreck, or I haven't read anything on the market, I don't even know what's happening.
Mm,
Um, that gets me in and out, uh, with adapting with the markets like all the time, no matter what.
mm.
That is the gold standard. But but yeah, people, just can't help themselves. Like, they want to know what's going on, and then they're like, oh, that move shouldn't be happening. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like those things. And then you're smart, and you want to figure it all out,
That
and
stuff
just got
drives
to
me
get.
nuts. That drives me
Yeah,
crazy when people say things like, this shouldn't happen. This can't be happening, or it can't go up any more than this. It's like people like the semiconductor trade, people told me that the whole damn time. Like still, like it's at new highs again. Like it's still like, why is this going up? It should be cut in half by 50%. I don't know why. And to me, I say the same thing every time, which is one, my stop will hit. Great. Two, we're into profit, so who gives a shit? Three is it's just a signal. It's one position. So I think the other thing is that you do well as a trend following trader, which is figure out like your positions don't matter that much to you because to get to the stop is just, a certain percent of your portfolio. So how do you set that up? Like how do you set up all your sizing, especially as a fund?
uh how do I set up my sizing? So first, to start with, what I want to, well, really, hold on. Yeah, start with what I'm willing to lose, like how much risk I'm willing to take on. And then I could see, depending on how much uh money I'm managing, how many positions can I take, how diversified do I want to be. I tend to skew on the, I want to be as diversified as possible. It diversified in the sense that, because the equity guys and most traditional investors will think of that as like, okay, I'm going to have all of these on all the time. That I'm very diversified. Like, no, I
Mm-hmm.
want to be, how many things do I want to watch for opportunities to happen? Um, and then when the trends start to fire up, then I can throw a position on there. And
Mm-hmm.
so I always skewed on, I wanted to be as diversified as possible. So depending on that calculus of uh assets managed, how much risk I'm willing to take, how diversified I want to be, then that kind of sets the risk per trade, if you will. Um, and over the recent years, like when I first started out, I was trading. I was only trading $300,000 my first day in 2011. So I was trading. I can only trade 11 markets, and that's the other part of the equation too, is how long term and
Mm-hmm.
short term you want to be. I've always wanted to be as long term as possible without being too long term where it doesn't work. Um, but that yeah, so uh, thinking about that as well. I was trading 11 markets, say average holding period was like a few months, and I remember I was risking almost 5% per trade. Now, that 5% per trade on 11 markets versus, say, uh, if you're trading 55 markets at 1% is the same overall risk, right? 55%. But with the 55 markets, you tend to maybe get, depending on which ones you choose and the timing and all those random things that you can't control, it produces, it's a different system. You're much less susceptible to, say, like, if you picked a market and there was a huge gap move overnight or something, you get crushed, or the other end where, say you have a 5% bet on an orange juice or cocoa right now, like, your performance looks a lot different. Um, and that's where, those things are just the nature of how you set up your design. But uh, so, like, now I'm trading, like, around 150 different instruments between futures and forex and single stocks. So, and I trade higher than 55% now because uh, I got a lot more diversified, a lot more long term, a lot more stable. Like those early days where the system wasn't as, I don't think, as good, because I was only, again, watching 11 markets. Like, I didn't have carbon emissions. I didn't have, London metals. I didn't, and a bunch of other, like, single stocks. I was just trading index futures. So, um, whether I was trading the S&P, Europe or Asia, they're all kind of, over time, they do similar things. It's not a guarantee, but you tend to go through those periods where they're doing kind of the same thing. You pull up the charts,
Yep.
they're kind of the same. But
Yep.
so I wanted to get as different as possible without, like, double dipping on things. And so, yeah. And I'm sure I can add more now, but again, it's like a function. I'm managing 10 million now. Like, I can't. I'm at a point now where I'm at risk of not being able to take positions in some things. So, like, all right, well, I gotta lean back, like, wait until I manage some more money, um hook up, find some new investors before I can start doing those things. But those are, like, natural progressions that exist as you grow, and what
Yeah.
decisions you want to make and things like that. Like, I would not be as great as it would be right now having, say, a 5% bet on an orange juice. It might be hard for a lot of people to hold on to it
Yes.
even as it wins, because you're looking at the dollars and you're like, holy shit. Uh, I
Yeah.
have 100 fucking contracts on, and this thing is just going to the moon. Like, oh, I can't
It's
stomach
painful.
yeah, I can't stomach a potential reversal. And I think, like, last week or 2 weeks ago, it fell like
Oh,
10% in 2 days.
yeah. And like I
So,
remember watching it, being like looking in the portfolio and going like, damn. And like somebody said something to me about it. Oh man, it's a cool trade. I'm like, well, it's really not like moving the whole portfolio. Like, yes, it's one cool trade in the portfolio, but it's not moving everything around. And that
right.
10% drop, like if it was, like you said, the size it would be. And that's the thing, like I wanted to talk about that more because so many people talk about like the ability to hang on to these trades, or like they'll be like, oh man, you can really hang on to these trades. It's like, I'm only able to do that because of the size. If I had any
Yeah,
bigger
yeah,
size, I wouldn't be
yeah,
able to do it.
yeah. I think that is an advantage, to diversifying. It's advantage to, like, it might be your approach too, but the approach of, let's try to squeeze in as many different instruments as possible and get the smallest trade possible.
Mhm.
So I am indifferent, so
Mhm.
I'm not have my whole portfolio sitting there, but I'm really looking at orange juice. Like, oh god, this thing's driving the whole P&L.
Mhm.
um I don't think that's healthy. um and again, people will skew to, well, if it's winning, who cares? Yeah, yeah. Well, trade long enough, it's not going to work out. You're going to go through a period where it's going to drive you insane, and
Yeah.
it's
Well,
going to
there's
burn
also
you.
the times where something like that, and I can't tell you how many times it's happened, something like that when I would trade a little bit bigger back in the day would be holding up the whole portfolio, like basically, let's say everything's kind of flat and you have this one, or even down, and you have this one thing just ripping, and then it
Hmm.
drops 10%, like it becomes this huge position. Now you're losing majorly. And like then
Yeah,
you're thinking, oh, what do I gotta do now to like fix this? Like, it just it's a circle. Like you just continue in this loop of like a doom loop basically over and over again, doing the wrong thing over and over again and being too big and stressing out. And stress, like you talked about in baseball, you can talk yourself into a slump. Like you can
Yep.
also try to talk yourself into, like, maybe if I did this differently, maybe if I did this differently. But if you just come in with the exact plan, and that's the one thing I try to teach here more than anything, is like if you come in with the right plan and you continue to just do the right thing over and over again, and you backtest this and this thing works, at some point
Yeah.
it will work again. Like it's not something where, I mean, you talk to trend followers who've been doing this forever, and you probably have more than even me. How many times do they even have to change their system?
I mean, and I don't think you need to change. Like, if you do change, that's a personal preference of yours. To, yeah, I don't want to trade as heavy over
Mm,
here. You know what? I want to get a little longer term. I want to add a new system that trades a different. Mm, I don't know, a different breakout parameter or
mhm,
something. I don't know. And I think, uh, I forget where I was going with that. Um, Lost my train of thought.
that's okay. It happens to me like 50 times a day.
Yeah. What was the question you said? What did you say right before? Just so I can remember.
I was just talking about needing to change systems. Like, how many traders do you know that have to change their systems?
Yeah. So I think when you back test, to get that initial, all right, I got something. Okay.
Mhm,
Um, then changing, like how I changed, like when I changed, my plan was always to change. I just wasn't able to yet, going from
mhm,
11 markets to now 150. Like, okay, when do you add them? When do you do it? Like, well, that's
mhm,
technically a change. Um, you don't need to change, but as long as you're kind of, just like I think of it like a hitter, or, a baseball, where, like, I'm going to use a different bat, or I'm going to go 1 ounce heavier, lighter, whatever. I'm going to use different gloves or this or that.
mhm.
These are all like kind of details. You're still going to maintain the same swing and things like that. You're not changing. You're not doing like a ground up change. You just changing maybe some particulars, like, oh, I like how that feels better. Or, I really prefer that more. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, fine, yeah, no big deal. But I think a lot of back tests, uh, really simulate life in the markets well,
Mhm.
other than the feelings that you're going to get when you have to do it. you know
Yeah.
I think the tests show, and I've tested a lot of different things, and I blindly select. I pick things out of a hat, and throw it in there. Same with
Mhm,
instruments, um parameters and bet sizes, and this and
mhm,
things like that. And then, all right, let's just see what happens. And a lot of things just work really well. And, like,
mhm,
it depends if you have, oh, I give a higher percentage of the overall risk budget to equities or
mhm,
commodities or whatever. It's like, well, a couple years ago, I think it was, yeah, 2021, I did really well, but some of the larger trend followers that trade a lot of financials didn't, and
mhm,
somebody even lost money that year. That's like,
mhm.
how the hell is that possible? Well, because a lot of them trade bonds, a lot of them trade stocks, where they got hurt, or they just muddled along, didn't do much.
So
But
you mean
commodities are
22
all,
or
yeah, I think, well, 21 I did well because a lot of commodities did really well. So that year,
commodities, stocks, kind of everything went up 21 smoothly, kind of. But individual
yeah,
stocks didn't do too good. 22 was the commodities did really good at the beginning of the year, and then
right, then they
stocks
topped. Right,
stocks
right,
went bad.
right. So I overperformed huge in 21, and then underperformed uh in 22.
Mhm.
But yeah, I expect that, because, yeah, I give more of an allocation to, more the risk budget to commodities than, say, some other firms.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the end of 21, after I had a good year and they didn't, like, am I better? Am I a better trend follower? No, maybe not.
Hmm.
We'll see over a long period of time. But like answering that question with the last year's performance is not a sufficient answer.
Yes.
Um, it's like, well, I just had more commodities in there and you didn't. Mm,
Hmm.
mm, you know,
Yep.
and then you had more bonds or something where you shorted, you had more of the bond short than I did. Well,
Hmm.
I was getting gains back in commodities, getting out, and you were loaded in bond short. I
Hmm.
had a bond short too, but it wasn't as big as you. Oh, okay. Well, then you made a lot more. Like, does
Yeah.
that make you better than me now? Like, I don't know. You know. So I think there's just so many things that work, and you don't need to be tinkering all the time. And I think you got to be careful with, what are your motivations behind it? Is it to maintain your asset base? Like again, like if I'm managing your money, like the best thing to do is to do what I've been doing.
Mm.
And if I truly find something better, like, oh yeah, trading 11 markets is actually not as good as trading 150. Yeah, I agree with that. Based on all the testing and research I've done. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. All right, Jason, we're going to make that change.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. But just be ready for possibly there might be some like, you know, clumsy period where we get into these new positions and, you know, it might be where like the old 11 market system would have did better than this new one, but longer term this one is the one. This one's going to be better than that one long term. But in the short term, we might yeah, it might
Mhm.
not work out that way, but it might be a little, performance might be a little more sluggish than it would have been. But we got to make this change. So this is what we're gonna do. But it's like, no, we're gonna be aggressive fund, then we're gonna scale it back. But yeah, actually, this is better. We're gonna go back to this. It's like, you know, you're
Yeah.
always chasing the most recent performance and you get yourself in trouble and you're like, man, if we just would have stuck with the fucking thing, then wow, look what we would have done. But
Well, like you
because we
said
didn't.
earlier, sticking with it for 30 years, like if because to me, that's what I'm thinking about with my money. I'm not thinking about, hey, I need it tomorrow. Like I'm thinking about, hey, the money I
Right.
put into my own fund in 20, 30 years when I would like to use it, that's what I'm really looking for. How's my returns over that long period of time? My clients, they're really in it for the long run. So as long as like we're all in it for the long run, why am I sitting there focused on month to month and day to day and quarter to quarter? I should be focused on that long term, putting in good yearly returns, like and then compounding that together over a long period of time. Now we have a ton of money. So if you're able to outperform the market in that very long run, now we're talking about a real recipe to make a lot of money. But if you're sitting there and you're going like I need to outperform every day, every week, like one, you're going to start blowing yourself up because it's impossible. You're chasing something that's impossible. You can't win every day and every week. So what we do as trend followers, we take that, we go very long term. We understand that there's going to be some down periods because the market isn't always in the environment that's best for us. So just understanding that, now we're
Yeah.
looking towards when are we going to be in those environments? Well, 2020, 21, we get the best environments ever. We make up for all our underperformance at a certain point, like it's very important to understand that difference.
Yeah. I think if at my house we have like a little garden. There's no like vegetables or anything. It's just a lot of flowers, and I always like take that very seriously because it's like
Mm-hmm.
one of my calming, non-competitive, just habits. I guess I don't know what you call it. Hobbies, and like go out and go day trade your garden. Like you'll
Mm-hmm.
end up killing it
Mm-hmm.
because you'll be wanting it to grow faster than it is. It's not blooming as well. I got to move it. Like
Mm-hmm.
now you're moving the whole plant. Like you keep cutting the roots and moving it, and you're trying to mask it with all the new fertilizers or new soils or whatever. It's like just leave it the fuck alone. Figure out where the sun is going to go, where the water is being displaced. If you have an irrigation, what does better in the sun, what does better in the shade, what does part, yada yada yada, and then put it around, and then watch it, and then see. And don't prune it to death. That's another thing that people do. They'll prune it to death. I don't want to see any orange. I don't want to see any crappy color other than the bright green or the bright colors. But then you cut it too much and you kill the plant.
Yep.
Like you can't keep cutting it. You got to just leave it alone. The plant will handle it. If you were not here, it would be just fine. you
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, and I think it's like that with trading as well. Uh, you get a good way, just leave it be. We don't know how exactly this is going to work out, but you have to trust in the fact that trends. It's the only, I guess, the only prediction we make as trend followers that trends will continue happening,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll be able to capture them at some point. But I don't know if how we're going to do well, how we're going to do this month. Like this month, like it sounds so like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But again, like what are you doing? You're just sitting around thinking about this month. You're
Mm-hmm.
thinking about, oh, my competitors are doing well. I gotta be better than them. I gotta stay close by. I'm not doing as well. I gotta make something happen. And you know, you just get yourself in a bad spot if you go like that. Meanwhile, like punk rock is like we have no aspirations. We're not even thinking about like playing in grand, you know,
Yeah.
stadiums, all these people. We're just like fucking jamming in our garage, bro, and like
Mm-hmm.
trying to make good music. And like if it works out, wonderful, just wonderful. And sports guys have the same thing where they're just like trying to play well. They play in a small town and wherever, and they put their head down, they play well, put out a good product,
Mm-hmm.
and oh, magically it works out. Of
Yeah.
course, of course, of
Yeah.
course, of course it does. You don't need to have like this grand like business plan and scheme. You just make a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
play well. Make good food, and people are gonna eventually find you. Some will find you faster than others. Um, some people get lucky,
Mm-hmm.
luckier than others. They have success earlier, but in the long run, you'll kind of you're making a good product. You're gonna win. You're gonna win. But
Yeah, your garden analogy is awesome because I garden as well. I mainly have I have a bunch of bee stuff. I love bees. So I have a bunch of
bees,
bee
yeah, okay,
stuff. Yeah. So I have like a bunch of little bee houses and I keep bees and I raise like leaf cutter bees and mason bees and stuff. So but thinking about that and the analogy that you gave, like it really made me think about a lot of new traders. A lot of new traders watch this and like they'll go to a newsletter and be like, oh, this person is doing this and like they're saying their returns are this. Oh, I'm on Twitter, this guy said he had a 190% trade today. I didn't have 190% trade today, and it's like some 1 day options trade that like happens 1 in a million times. Like, and he posted it. Who knows what the rest of his positions look like or what his year looks like, like, and they're getting obsessed with it. They're going, oh, that's like this. They're getting obsessed with it. So when you have that type of situation, you're looking at it and going, okay, well, I'm a new trader. I have to change all this stuff around. I have to read this person. I have to keep up with this person. I have to do this. Like, you're driving
yeah,
yourself fucking crazy. Like,
yeah,
literally, you're driving yourself fucking crazy. You will not be a good trader like that. You have to figure out, and that's what I really try to do is like, here's what I do. See my discipline, see what I do with my strategy, but create your own. Like I can't tell you, like I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I'm not telling you what to do. You got to figure that out on your own and mix that with your own methodology and back test that and figure out what type of trader you want to be. Because if you're sitting over here rearranging the garden every day, like it's dead.
right, yeah. That's uh, sometimes it's best to leave it alone. Like trust, like do a lot of work beforehand. Again, like get it all right. And I learned that from gardening too. Like I had things in the wrong spots. You know, there's no amount of fertilizer or whatever that you can do uh, to get it to grow. What it needs is something out of your control. So you can't replicate the sun um, or something like that. Maybe being next to another plant, like it's well, yeah, these roots aren't as strong as these other ones you got around it, and they're stealing all the water. Get it into a different spot. Like okay, done. You know, it's not. Don't try to keep trying to make it work in this obviously, you know, bad spot that it's in or something. But
Nice.
yeah, I think but I don't think I think people rush into it. They rush into a lot of businesses. They rush into a lot of just decisions, and then they're left scrambling like, oh, I made a mistake. Well, maybe let's just like, let's not admit it. Let's just try to like keep masking it. Let's try to keep finding a way to fix it somehow. Like, no, the move is to just cut it, move on, rather than create rules for rules for rules, and then it's got a very complicated thing. You don't know what it's doing anymore. Um,
Nice.
but these are all common. These are all things that people do, that we all do.
Well, perfect. Well, let's end on that note. I want to be mindful of your time. I've kept you for a while now, but thank you so much for coming on, man, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, man.